Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and today we've got the review of the 2020 Mazda MX-5 Miata. Now, full disclaimer, this is going to be the last time I say MX-5 because nobody calls it by that, even though that is the official title of this car. Nowhere on it does it say Miata. On the owner's manual it says Mazda MX-5. On the window sticker it's almost listed as a trim that it's a Miata. The actual model name is MX-5, but everyone knows and loves this car as the Miata. So we're gonna take it out for a little test drive, talk about its merits, and talk about whether it's worth $36,000 as built here. It's a club trim with the BBS Recaro Brembo package, giving us these BBS wheels, the Brembo brakes, and these nice Recaro seats that you'll see in a moment. And one of the biggest things that ever holds me up from getting a Miata, even though I've definitely been tempted, is the size. There's just really not all of that much in here. My previous sports car, convertible car, was a Boxster, and that had more than twice the amount of storage space as this Miata. And you are able to fit some helmets and some backpacks, maybe just the right sort of luggage in there, but for two people to go along for more than a 1 or 2 day road trip can definitely be tight. You certainly have to have another vehicle in your fleet or be willing to rent a lot. And the interior is also tight, but you make do. It's kind of like living with what's necessary. No sort of excess. You're using the whole car. So you can see these nice Alcantara lined Recaro seats. They hug you in very well. We had this car out at the track. Didn't really get much footage of it because it was raining and it was kind of just a slide fest and not really in a good way. It was just sort of cold and unenjoyable. And it also doesn't help that with my helmet camera, you pretty much can't see anything because this thing is so low inside. We can see here, standard club trim accoutrement, manual climate control with very nice knobs. I like to see that. Easy to use. Little spot for your phone, some USB chargers, heated seats with these Recaros. Turn the car into accessory mode. See the screen that can be used as a touchscreen while you're stopped. And we did learn from somebody on our live drive on Tuesday that you can go into sort of the diagnostics menu here and turn off the speed lockout. So you can use the touchscreen at any speed. And it really wasn't that hard to do. So definitely nice to see that. Thank you to Maran Samandi for helping us set that up. But you also have this rotary knob to use either when you're stopped or moving. Sort of makes it a little bit safer, but it does make it a little bit harder to use Android Auto and Apple CarPlay when the touchscreen's locked out. No sort of glove box in the Miata. All you get is this pretty deep center console. So you can see right now we've got one of the cup holders that can be locked in right there on the passenger side or back here. Actually, can this one? Yeah, it can go right there. So you get two cup holders right in the center. This is kind of flopping around, so I'm going to actually lock it into place here. Just like that. Take a quick look at the window sticker. 2020 Mazda MX-5. You see right there in model, it says MX-5 Miata Club in Arctic white with the black interior. All in, you're just under $36,000 for this car. And that gives me slight pause, just knowing what else you can get. I mean, that's only a few $1,000s shy of a V8 Camaro. I know is a very different car, but when you just think of what you're getting both from a performance aspect and a holistic vehicle aspect and a fun aspect, when you kind of start to get this expensive for a Miata, you have to start considering those sort of things. I would much rather just get either the base club or even a base sport Miata for much less money, and then if I wanted some extra brake, better braking or different wheels, put those on myself. But to buy this car with what it's fitted with for $36,000, it's not awful, but it just makes it so you do have to consider the competition. Also, you saw this car gets 34 miles per gallon on the highway according to the EPA, but in our testing, on our real-world highway fuel economy test, we managed 40 miles per gallon. If you want to see that entire test, check the link in the description, but I kind of just gave you the spoiler right there. Very good result from the Miata. So the whole point of the Miata is to be enjoyed from behind the wheel, so let's fire it up and get on the road. This is one of my favorite transmissions on the market. The manual is just so crisp, precise. You know exactly which gear you're in each time. It's so easy to heel toe. Just a very pleasant experience. I noticed the other day on the live drive that even though this car is so engaging to drive at the limit, it's also very easy to just set driving aside and talk with somebody in the passenger seat or listen to music or kind of just zone out the way we often do on trips. And just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the shifter. It's very second nature. It's in a perfectly comfortable spot to just grab and adjust. And the steering is well weighted. The steering wheel feels nice. There aren't too many cars that are both as rewarding to drive at the limit as they are just casually in everyday driving. Miata does a really good job with that. Right there. Even at 60 miles per hour here, you notice the wind noise. Every time I drive a soft top Miata on the highway, I'm tempted to look back and make sure that the top's closed properly, because it just sounds, especially when a vehicle goes by you on the highway, it sounds like there's a hole in the top. But it's just kind of the nature of a inexpensive rag top. Perfectly seamless downshift from 6th to 4th. Do another one up to 3rd. The best thing about a Miata is just how approachable it is and how much lower the limits are. You can feel like you're pushing the car to the limit at sane, reasonable speeds. You guys have seen me do these roads before in $100,000 sports cars and supercars, and I've got to be going just stupid speeds to really feel like I'm pushing the car toward what its capabilities are. The Miata's not that case. You can drive it around and have kind of a rainy day like today and feel like a driving master just by sliding around at 30 miles per hour. That being said, it doesn't have the most finesse. Both Chris up at the Topher and I noticed when we were out on the track, it snaps back out of slides in a really sort of disconcerting way. Turn the traction control off now. You sort of have to keep your foot in the power more than you expected. Something to do with its wheelbase and the body roll. If you let off the power and sort of let it snap back, it snaps hard. Let's see if I can kind of demonstrate that a little bit. Man, this engine's so happy to rev. You can cruise around at $5,000 and not feel like you're taxing the thing. On that subject, for 2019, the 4th generation Miata was updated. They moved the redline up a bunch. Now it's up at, well, depending on how you cut it, about 7,500 RPM. And it just makes for that much better of a driving experience in the Miata. Gives you a horsepower bump from 155 up to 182 from this naturally aspirated 2-liter. And it makes you feel like you actually got to work and use the car for what it's able to do. Here we are, windy day at 70 miles per hour. Just listen to that. It's not a highway road tripper, guys. It really isn't. I'm not saying you can't do it. The seats are actually remarkably comfortable. So in terms of a body comfort standpoint, it's doable. But the limited space you have and just the incredible wind noise, and maybe if you rode around with some noise-canceling headphones, that'd be the way to do it. That being said, the Bose audio system in this car is actually quite good. It does have to fight all that wind noise, so you lose some of the lower volume subtleties, but for what this car is and its price point, I'm impressed with what they were able to do. So I don't want to go as far as to say that this car is overpriced, because I have to imagine that Mazda is pricing it accordingly, so they kind of know how many Miatas they're going to sell. They've been selling them for 30 years at this point, so they know what they're getting into and they know what they need to charge to make it worth building and selling the Miata. But I just can't help but think a car that's this small, this simple, why can't they just charge a little bit less? Like, if this were, say, like a $23,000 car out the door for the base model, I see no reason why everybody shouldn't have a Miata. But when you start talking $30,000, there's just a lot of other things you need to consider. And yes, you'd make compromises with some of those cars, but you'd also be gaining a lot more. So you really have to weigh out your priorities and decide if a Miata is right for you. But I wouldn't make that decision without driving one, because the driving experience is better than so many cars out there. I'm not lying to you guys when I tell you I would rather drive this car than many of the much faster, more powerful, more capable cars I've driven. Perfect example, BMW M8 competition. I would take this car any day of the week. I guess unless I was being paid to do a road trip cross country, then yes, BMW M8 would be better. But other than that, this car is more satisfying. And I know that's just kind of a journalisty BS cop-out that people don't understand without driving the vehicles. But unless you've driven a Miata, and an M8 for that matter, you don't notice the subtleties of the steering satisfaction, the sensations, the vibrations you feel, the sounds that it makes. A BMW M8 feels like driving a video game. A Mazda Miata feels like driving a race car for the street in terms of its driving satisfaction. I think the best way that I summed it up when I was talking about it with Alyssa on our live drive, which, if you guys want to be a part of those live drives, Tuesdays, typically Tuesday evenings, 5:30 Eastern time, we stream. We're out with you guys hanging out, talking about the car, driving the car, answering questions. It's a great time. But the way I put it to Alyssa is, if I were to get out of riding motorcycles, I would seriously consider picking up a Miata as a fun car and a replacement of that sort of experience to have in a four-wheel situation. Motorcycles you can get so much cheaper. They're cheaper to buy, they're cheaper to own, cheaper to insure, they're faster, they're more capable. And if you get a bike like my Suzuki V-Strom that has 2 saddlebags, a top case, and if you need to, like a backpack or sort of something that you can strap onto the seat, you can get just as much cargo in a motorcycle as you can in this Miata. It's kind of both cool from the bike standpoint and embarrassing from the Miata standpoint. But if you don't want to drive a motorcycle, and I totally understand that, there are plenty of reasons not to want to ride bikes, a Miata is a great alternative. It's just pricier. Fortunately, these things are very reliable, so you could buy yourself a Miata with 100,000 miles for 12 grand and be just as happy as with one of these new ones. Do I have complaints about this car outside of just the objective size and cost metrics? The infotainment screen's getting a little bit dated. Other than that, keeping in mind what it is, really quite few. I suppose we haven't really talked about the fact that it's convertible yet. It's very easy top to operate. You just pop this, slide it open, easy enough. It's actually a lot easier and faster than many powered tops that are out there. I'm impressed by the comfort. I'm continually impressed by the build quality, the driving experience. When you've been building the same car for 30 years, you really know how to get it down to a science, and that's where Mazda's at this point. I'll take one in orange, please. Backup camera. Existing, just barely functional, but it works. The lines don't really move or anything. Let me see. You can change the brightness and a few other settings of the camera, but it's mostly just there. The car is small enough, you don't need it as much as you would in other vehicles. But I do appreciate that they put blind spot monitoring in the car, because you do have some pretty thick blind spots there. Take a quick look at the engine. Straightforward, 2-liter, inline 4, 0W20 oil weight. Plenty of room to work on here. It'd be super easy to do spark plugs or pretty much any of your own sort of maintenance. It's an accessible car. Always has been, hopefully always will be. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want to see more on the excellent little, slightly expensive Miata, check the links in the description for our highway fuel economy test, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.